Hey everybody, it's Tony is Right. I'm Tony. I am a first year MFA student, MFA, Masters of Fine Arts in Creative Writing with a concentration in poetry. So I'm here to do kind of like a check-in mid-semester, well really 2/3 of the way semester almost, check-in for the spring 2024 and just kind of talk about where I am. Where it's going, what I'm feeling, and kind of just figure out what's going on. So, how's it going? It's going better than earlier in the semester. So, I started the semester late January, and then 2 weeks later, my grandmother passed unexpectedly, and that put me in for world, like, just threw us all upside down. It was unexpected. We had to do a funeral, the processing someone not being there and having to pay, getting the bills together and just all that stuff. And so that took a toll on me from February until basically now. And especially like the weeks after her death, like until her burial, which was the 1st of March. It was really hard to try and process. It's still hard to try and process because I lived with her in this place, in this house. So it was kind of like, wow, like, not here anymore. Very quick, very sudden, and processing that was hard. And so with that, I'm going to be very honest. I've turned in a lot of things for my publication software class, like uber late, if not at all. I let her know, but I'm slowly crawling myself back. I think it's because I had to get the software, then I was trying to get everything together, and I was just struggling. I felt like I wasn't getting the technology, I wasn't getting it, I wasn't understanding why I would be making things, it just didn't work out. And so, coupled with the death of someone very close to me, I checked out until like after the funeral. And I am, like I said, it's mid-April now. I'm just starting to really get in the swing of things. I think what turned it around for me in the publication software class is that we started using Photoshop and Illustrator. And I started to have a love of Adobe Creative Cloud products again. The first graduate program I attempted years ago after I graduated college was in the same university, but it was a different program that was emphasizing publications, like design, like publishing design, essentially. So it was kind of like a graphic design course, maybe a little bit of web stuff in there, a little bit. I think they've since changed the program, but it was kind of more of a graphic design program I was in. And so we were learning the stuff that we're learning now in my creative writing course. We're learning it on a lighter scale than that one. Their degree is in stuff like working with InDesign and making sure they can publish things in web design and back end and front end type thing. Like that's their actual degree. And that was the degree I was trying to go for. But now I'm in a creative writing degree program. But we still have to take publication kind of elements, right? So we need to know how to create a book because we will be creating a thesis and we will be creating our own book and publishing it. So yeah, when I was in this other class, we had to do this stuff, and I felt the same way about it years ago when I was in that first graduate program because I was confused and I was lost and I was trying to navigate all this stuff. I think I was like working and I couldn't, it was just a lot that I was trying to process. Then no one was dying or had died, but I know I was just processing a lot. And so this semester I was also processing a lot, but I decided to focus and stop making an excuse that I didn't have the software and stuff like that. I decided to give it a good effort. I said, I have quit 2 degree programs before for graduate school. I do not want to quit a third, and I don't want to get low marks, right? That I have to I'm removed from the program or something like that. So I decided to give it a really good shot. We are making our first book in the program. So we have to have 4 poems. one prose piece, and we're making a book for all of it. So we have to design the front, back covers, and the material, the matter that goes in between. So we have to have things like acknowledgments, content, table of content, stuff like that. So we have to really get on it because our semester ends like mid-May, so we only have a month left. So I was talking to my classmate and I was like, I want my book, every page has some sort of element of a tutorial that we've learned, right? So every tutorial that we've learned, I want something in here to let the teacher know, you know, because I wasn't there for a few days. I turned in a lot of things late, but I really want to make sure that this is going to look good. I want it to look good. I want it to look like I was paying attention, because I actually have been paying attention and I actually have grasped a lot of things a lot quicker. And it may be recalling that experience back when I started grad school like a decade ago and never finished, right? With the publications to kind of design, the graphic design kind of elements. And so I'm recalling not necessarily the skill set, but the enthusiasm to learn it, even though it was difficult for me to kind of grasp the enthusiasm to learn it. So at the end of the semester, I will show you the book that we make, that I make. Everybody's making their own book. You can design it however, whatever size you want it. I decided to go by 8 by 8. So it's a square design. And I think that actually will help me when it comes to designing the pages, because I feel like I have a little bit more space to work with based on what I in my mind. Because if you work with a 3 by 5 or even an 8.5 by 11, well, really you're not working with an 8.5 by 11. You're probably working with a 4 by 6, 7 by 9 size or something like that. But she said you can make it square or rectangular, so I made it a square, 8 by 8. So I'm excited to be with that. The second class that I've been taking is poetry and memoir, which has come in clutch because I've been able to write down and process my feelings and learn about memoir, which I did not know. First of all, I didn't even know that was an option for this program. Like, the options that they gave were like fiction and like poetry. I did not know that nonfiction was an entire like concentration until we met people that were into the in that concentration. I was like, what the fuck, like who are you? Like, I'm taking like the creative nonfiction, like the nonfiction one. I'm like, huh? Like, I didn't even know y'all existed. Anyway, so we're in a class, poetry and memoir. So we're reading people who have wrote memoirs, more creatively, and poetry, and either they've merged them, or the poetry is the memoir. Like, they've merged them, stuff like that. So I'm gonna go through some of the books that are for our semester. Some of them we have read, some of them we have not read yet. So the two we have not read yet, we have Diane Seuss Frank Sonnets. So this is the first one. So we'll be going through this, I think, at the end of the semester, closer to the end of the semester. So there's that. Yeah, we'll see how this one goes. Trace Evidence, poems by Sharif Shanahan. Poems. As you can see, there's a face in there. Just the back. Material. So one thing about me also is that I like visual movement across the page. So I like experimental forms of poetry. That's just something I've ended up being gravitating towards, because I also am interested in like museum curatorial space, and somehow that links in my mind. So yeah, there's that. I have to get one more book, hold on. So these are the ones that we've already gone over and discussed in class. So the first one is Killing the Black Dog by Les Murray. So essentially it's about depression and the events that kind of kind of start him off on this like path of destruction, path of depression, and then eventually what gets him out, and the reckoning, the emotional, psychological reckonings that he has with depression, excuse me, and coming out of it and understanding it in himself and the people around him, the relationships he's had with other people, not just romantic but familial as well. He begins to understand them a little bit better, and I feel like get up a little bit more context to his experience, right, and the experience of other people. And so I found it incredibly interesting to read. I was sharply opposed by everyone in the class. I feel like they didn't like that this book didn't read like as lyrical, or as it read more clinical, perhaps removed observance, and it didn't have as many sparkling lines. But to me, and my argument was, it juxtaposed between the person who we had to contrast with, and I forgot who it was because I didn't really care for their work, which is so funny. Everybody cared for their work, I didn't care for it. Everybody didn't care for this one, I care for this one. I felt like this said everything that he wanted to say, right? And he clearly states the stuff that he didn't want to say, and I was just like arguing against the other person. Not that it was bad writing as far as like individual lines, but I was explaining that I personally was not looking at individual language, words. What I was looking for was, when I read it overall, did the person write what they wanted to write? And I felt like in that other writing they held back, versus whatever it was held back, he actually mentioned that he wasn't going to disclose it. And even just that, for me as a reader, helped, versus the other one, which was wrapped up in innuendo and wrapped up in kind of like the perspective of a writer that I did not want to be, which is kind of like alluding to kind of things. I'd rather just say it, right? For the poetry that I do allude to things, you know, they're not overly complicated things. And they're not really attached to me anyway, either. So, Lauren Russell's Descent. So this is kind of a mix, because it's kind of like, you have photos, you have like memoir, you have poetry, you have like artifact, like you have things in here. This was also one of the weeks I didn't show up because I was over it. The semester, I was over it after. This was around the time my grandmother died, and I just didn't feel like it, and I didn't read it either. But I will go back and read it, so there's that. Lastly, Be With Me Always by Randon Billings Noble is essays. We actually had this writer come in and talk about their writing process and the experiences that they were having that led to this, a little bit on publishing and how publishing works. And then we went to a reading by the author, and they answered more questions to a wider audience, but she came to our class specifically and listened to us ask her questions and responded. And so it's a series of essays, and she also signed it. So I was like, yay, because I really was resonating with so it starts off kind of mentioning like her experience, one experience like a near-death kind of experience, and then it goes into various other experiences like being pregnant, a relationship, just a lot of different things that she was thinking about. And so it has experimental forms like hermit crab, essays, the end are devotionals, and so we kind of like read about them. And so it's broken up into some various sections. I did not read all of it. I don't know what happened that I didn't read all of it, because the first section, the first essay, I guess, wasn't pulling me in until like the end, and then I started to really get into it when she mentioned started mentioning things like Dracula and like Heathcliff and all that kind of stuff, and I started to get pulled into it, and so it started to pick up a lot more. I personally, the leader for like the stuff that I read, Killing the Black Dog, like I just feel like, especially the first half of it, where it's just him writing about stuff, I just felt was so resonant for where I was in my life at the time, and it was just like right after we had taken my grandmother off of ventilation and all life support. So it was just very resonant, like Killing the Black Dog, this dog of depression. Yeah, it's not necessarily how my mind functions, but I like, as a reader, how the information was presented in this book, and I do like how it was presented in this one as well. So we have the 2 more that I said to go. So we got these, and then we have other things like paper. So we have an imitation subversion paper coming up, and then we have another like workshop, another few workshops we have. I think we have like 3 more workshops after this, and then we'll be wrapping up in mid-May. The last thing was, at the poetry reading, I bought the newest book from Rand and Billings Noble, because she was selling it there, A Harp in the Stars, and so I'll be reading that, not for class, but just in general. I just wanted to support the writer, and then I'll check out some other works that she's doing. So there's that. So that's how the semester's been going. I'm actually going to use this book that I have for my first semester course, my creativity course, and I'm going to start mapping out my final book, like making sketches on here, just to kind of see where I want my book to go. I also said I was going to make it in Canva and see if I can transliterate it to Adobe and see how that goes, right? So that's everything. So thank you for watching. How is your semester going? If you're in school for an MFA, or you have an MFA like fine art, are you MFA writing? If you're MFA in writing, are you fiction, poetry, screenwriting, playwriting, creative memoir, creative nonfiction type things? Like, what are you doing? So let me know. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.